self-regulating or not, it's clear a change is coming. Just how will that affect market practices and the way the financial industry buys and sells products? Our guest today is Allan Ewins, head of financial services regulatory at law firm Allan & Overy. Plus, of course, our guest on the show, Jesper Kohl, still with us, joining us from Tokyo. Now, Allan, let's start with you. A year after Lehman, what has changed? What has been learned?
Well, one of the main things that's happened is that enforcement activity has gone up hugely in Asia. Looking at it from the world point of view, we're trying to work out ways of organising the markets, improving the market in continuity across the continents, trying to look to see what's been happening across the board and seeing how the US and European initiatives on the G20 front are actually trying to bring together the global community and trying to make things work. It's not necessarily happening completely at the moment, but we'll wait to see when the finance ministers and the heads of state meet in Pittsburgh in due course, and in Scotland later next month and in November, just to see what is actually going to happen with that period after Lehman. Is something actually going to occur?
Let me follow up with this. One critic actually says that the financial system and the mega banks are as interconnected and inscrutable as ever before. The Obama administration will not be able to change much. Your thoughts?
Yeah, I think one of the big issues that's coming up at the moment is that you've got the oft-used phrase green shoots at the moment in terms of recovery, and there's a kind of race against time here as to whether or not the urgency in the situation is going to actually be taken on board and things are actually going to happen to improve the situation, rather than thinking, oh, OK, the recovery is getting back on track and we can push this to one side. It has happened in Asia before, in the previous Asian financial crisis when I was here last for that. And it's something that we need to be very conscious of, that fear tends to drive this kind of thing. If the recovery does get fully on board, then we're going to have to we're going to have to hope that the various ministers and the governments are actually going to push through on what are clearly fairly sensible and needed reforms.
Jesper, let me pose this question to you. The survivors post-Lehman, are they now too big to fail? They can always be bailed out by with taxpayer money.
Look, I think that, too big to fail will always be an issue, and you're quite right. At the end of the day, there should be, there should not be a too big to fail. It should just be a too big. But the fact of the matter is that global finance is here to stay. It's not going to go away. Global financial intermediation, whether it's the emergence of India, the emergence of China, all of this is going to happen, in a free market-based system. I think even the Communist Party in China, would fully endorse that. The real question, I think, sure, better rules, better enforcement of rules, a streamlining of regulatory agencies. I mean, why is it that in the United States, for example, you've got 5 or 6 regulators, rather than just one that really collects all the information and looks at it? That's really, I think, one issue that needs to be addressed. And then the other one, at the end of the day, is macroeconomic management. Yes, there's been an enormous fiscal injection. There is zero interest rates, quantitative easing, unprecedented, printing of money going on right now. The sooner that gets withdrawn, the smaller the risk of other big malpractices and a bubble occurring.
But where are we right now? What's your take on that? Are you confident we will not have another Lehman Monday, that the biggest bankruptcy in U.S. history?
Look, I'm absolutely positive that even in my lifetime, and I'm almost 50, we're going to see, another big crash. I mean, welcome to the world of capitalism. Welcome to the world of free markets.
How about you, Allan? What's your take on that?
I feel that it's almost inevitable. You cannot regulate away risk completely, and none of the big regulatory bodies in the world, the US, Europe, in Asia, are actually trying to do that. They're not. No one's actually saying no risk will be tolerated and will be left in the market. It's going to happen. It's the case is trying to work out. You've got all the stuff in the, for example, on the G20 side at the moment, trying to identify the big beasts in the jungle, the systemic risk type institutions. That's clearly an important point for everyone across the world, trying to work out what's going to happen in the market. But in terms of Asia, one of the big questions is how relevant is the G20 and how is that going to get pushed into the system? Because our crisis, if you like, over the last 12 months has been a different side of the coin from the European and the US experience, because you've got the position where it was prudential, capital-based problems principally in the Western economies, in more developed economies, and here in Asia you've had big conduct of business misconduct, mis-selling rule issues. So it's how those kind of bleed out and how those come into the Asian context and what becomes relevant. Because you've got all the you've got all the big villains at the moment being identified: hedge funds, bankers, bankers' remuneration, all that, and tax havens. Those are the kind of political vote winners. But the thing that is really important is how this affects the Asian economies.
Jesper, Allan is looking towards the G20 for indications. How far do you think Asia will get pulled along the G20 process?
I think that, particularly U.S. Treasury Secretary Geithner is very, very focused on, making sure that it's not just a G2 or G3, but that it really, includes many of the Asian countries to get on board. It will be a long and drawn-out process here, but I think, again, just to focus on the main point, I think that it's all very nice and well to say, Lehman Brothers this, Bear Stearns that. At the end of the day, what is lacking right now, in my personal opinion, is that, who is too big to fail right now?
Jesper?
Yep, go ahead.
We have to leave it there. Jesper Kohl and Allan, thank you so much for joining us today.